Okay, so we're going to get started. We're going to go ahead and label our 2025 ICD-10 book. You can see I have mine. It is still in its saran wrap. So let's go ahead and open it. It's like Christmas, right? Brand new code books. You have to open it. And then you get all of those fun little papers, all that snow, right? Let's see if we can get a lot. Oh, we don't get much today. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go through here and see if I have labels that AAPC has sent me, and it doesn't look like we do. Usually they have those weird little flimsy yellow labels, so we're going to skip right over those. So what I do anyway is I make my own. So I'm going to show you. This is what I order. It's the Avery printable tabs 16281. I always get the 24 set tabs. I get the color because that's just more fun, but they do have them in just white. But you can get the Avery tabs. You can order them on Amazon. I will put the link to those in the bottom section. And then I also get these colorful alpha labels, or you can get white labels so that we can then label our index. So that makes it easier to flip through your index. So we'll go through those today. But we're going to go ahead and get started. I have already pre-printed some labels for us. So we're going to go ahead and start at the table of neoplasm. And if you want the PDF for these, then go to the website, advancedcodingservices.com, fill out that little comment section, and there is a place that you can just put your information, put an email, and then tell me, say, just put a little thing like ICD-10 labels, and we will get those out to you. I'll email you the PDF so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. How fun is that? Okay, so we're just going to go through. We just did our table of neoplasms, and then we're going to do the table of drugs and chemicals. So we do some extra ones that we don't get little labels for from AAPC. Some publishers, each publisher is a little different. So it just depends on who you got your books from. I usually get them from AAPC simply because, you know, when you're teaching their curriculum, it just makes it easier that everybody has the same book so you can work your way through together. Okay, so far we have the table of neoplasm, and then we have our table of drugs and chemicals, and our external cause of injuries. So then we're going to go ahead and get into actually labeling our chapters. So there's chapter 1. Now my label, my tab says, I have the code range A00 to B99. Chapter 1, infectious and parasitic diseases. So I know what the chapter is, but I also know the code range. So that way it's labeled for both. So I don't have to, hunt around for it. So my next one is going to be, just kind of want to space those out, the neoplasms. And the really cool thing about these labels is they are repositionable-ish. So if we get them wrong, we can fix them. I think the air conditioning is going to kick on in here, which would be really nice. Okay, so now we're at chapter 3, diseases of blood and blood-forming organs. And we're going to move on to chapter 4. I always put these right at the very beginning of the chapters because that then captures my guidelines. Oh, by the way, our new guidelines became effective October 1st, right? So if you haven't downloaded the guidelines, now remember, if you're new to coding or you've been around a while, at the very front of our book, we have all of our guidelines, right? So I always download my guidelines from the CMS website. And then I always send them to like Staples or Office Max. I guess it's Office Depot now. And so I send them there, and they get printed, double-sided, and spiraled, connected spirally, that's a word, so that they're bigger font and we have room to put our notes on. So if you also want those, then go to the website, advancedcodingservices.com, and I will happily send you a copy of the new 2025 guidelines that have already been released, but they're already downloaded, so therefore you don't have to go find them and download them yourself. But I'll send you the PDF, and then you can also have the link so you'll know where to get them for next time. We want to be self-reliant, right? Okay, so now we're going to do chapter 8, the ear and mastoid. It's kind of, I know it kind of takes a while, but it takes a few minutes to get your book going and started. But then when it's done, it'll be pretty and functional. Now, this is just how I label my book. That doesn't mean that's going to work for you, and that's fine. Remember, these are your books, and how you label them is how you label them. And that's what makes the difference. I'll tell you, I had a student, she was like, "Oh, Beth, can I use your book for my exam?" And I said, "Sure, but my notes are my notes. They don't mean the same thing to everybody, right? So just because it meant something to me doesn't mean it meant something to her." So it's always important. They're kind of personalized, right? We've customized them to ourselves. Okay, so we have chapter 8, diseases of the ear and mastoid, chapter 9, diseases of the circulatory system. We just did chapter 10, diseases of the respiratory, and chapter 11, diseases of the digestive system. We're moving on to chapter 12, skin and subcutaneous tissue. Nope, that one's crooked. See, you can just peel that off carefully and reposition it. Pretty. And I'm just kind of loosely, and I know some people are much more ADD or OCD, much more OCD about this. I'm just kind of getting them on here kind of in an order that makes sense. I know some people really use that guide, and it does come with a guide in your packet. I'm just kind of eyeballing it. I might not be doing it right, but it's good enough for government work, right? Okay, so our next chapter. Oh, look, there's a page for notes. We like those note pages. Chapter 14. Chapter 15. Chapter 15 is pregnancy and childbirth. Those are all our O codes. Chapter 16 are our P codes. Those are, for the perinatal period. Be sure that you're looking at that guideline if you're using these codes, because remember, those are age specific. The P codes are right there. It says for coding and reporting purposes, the perinatal period is defined as before birth through the 28th day. So if your patient is older than 28 days, they don't get a P code. That's why it's so important that you're reading your guidelines. Trying to get to the front of our congenital and malformations. I know that's probably going to bother me. I don't know if I can fix that. There, that's better, right? Chapter 20, we're almost done. Oh, I lied to you. Okay, chapter 18. These are your symptoms, your signs and symptoms. Put it down here. Chapter 19, these are your injury and poisoning. Let's get that a little closer. Those are your S codes and your T codes. And the really cool thing is you can always tell the difference between chapters, because if you put it on its side, you can see the difference in the colored pages. Each chapter has a different color. Okay, this is chapter 20. Sure that was good. And I really like these tabs because they do fold over so that you can see them from the front or the back. Okay, our last one for this section is chapter 21. Okay, and that's your factors influencing health status and contact with healthcare. Okay, so I do have some extras that I create just because I like those. I like to label the alpha index. So you can put these across down the side or across the top. I know some people like them across the top. I know some people surprisingly do it across the bottom because it makes it easier for them because they're sitting here, they can just flip through it instead of looking up here. However works for you is what works, right? Okay, so let's just kind of go through here. We have our table of contents. But look, right there are our guidelines. So I'm going to put the guidelines right there. And then what else do we have? Your symbols and conventions. I'm going to go ahead and label I'm just going to put a blank one right there of my anatomical illustrations. And then we have our alpha. So I'm going to use the white alpha label. So just put my alpha across the top because we already have, I think we have a lot of color and I like the color, but sometimes you just don't want it to be too busy. So I also use these sometimes. But today we're just going to go ahead and use, oh, look, we're going to use these because they're already there. So there we have the A. And then we're going to have B. There's the C. There's D. Now, if you guys do your books different and you're really proud of them and you think they're great, that's great. Send them to me. Let me see what those look like. Because just because this is how I do it doesn't mean that it's right, or doesn't mean that it couldn't be improved on, right? And I love to see how other people do their books, because it gives us great ideas on how to do them ourselves. I'm all about networking and sharing. My kids will tell you, I always made them share. They might not have liked it, but we shared. There's G. There's H. Okay, I'm gonna have to fix G because he's a little wonky, right? Ooh, I don't know if I can fix G. Okay, we're gonna leave G because I don't want to tear the page. So these are not repositionable. J and K are together. How cool is that? So we'll put J. And K. L, and then M. Okay, so you've got the first half. So then I would just keep going. There's M, and then I would just keep going with the rest of your labels. I'm going to go ahead and jump to the back so we can get some of these labeled back here. Remember your chapter 22, those are your special purpose codes. Back here, it's on page 1359, so 1359. Those are your emergency use codes. Those are emergency use of vaping, as well as our COVID codes, and now we have our post-COVID condition code. Z, your appendix A is for your long-term use of drugs. Appendix B is the summary of the ICD-10 changes. And that, my friends, is your ICD-10 book. And you have labeled your ICD-10 book. And it's all pretty. How pretty is that? Okay, don't forget, if you want the template for these labels, go to advancedcodingservices.com, fill out the little comment section. Tell me, I want the template for the labels. And then if you also want your 2025 guidelines, they're in your book, they're in here, but the font is really small. And I don't know about you all, but my eyes are pretty old. So I can also give you the PDF to your 2025 guidelines so that you can download those and print them out. I'll also give you the link for that so that you can download them yourself from CMS. And then if you want I'll also put the links of where I got all this. It's all from Amazon. So I'll put the links to each of the pieces of supplies that we used. So if you want to get those, you can get those yourself. There are places that sell you the pre-printed labels, and those are fine. If that's what you want to do, those are perfectly fine. This is just how we do it. So come back here shortly. We're going to label your CPT book and your ICD-10 book. Have a great day.